What's up? It's Ethan here again, and today I've got another mandala design to show you, but unfortunately I lost the first couple hours of footage on this. For some reason the file got corrupted, so I'm just going to show you what's going on for the first few portions, first little section of it, and then I'll show you the footage of my streaming of it, I guess. So the first set of letters that I did for this design was obviously a pretty simple one. You just have my letters thiCC kind of spiraling towards the middle. Nothing really too crazy going on, nothing much to talk about. It's simple because it's the smallest one. And building on that, the second outline, second letters set has a little bit more going on, a little more curve to it. Still pretty similar because in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty small. And this one, I took the literal opposite approach, where instead of making them bubbly, I kind of inverted that and gave them pointed ends. These first few were all very, very simple, since it's all going to be just in the middle and very small. The fourth one, this one actually feels more unique to me than the other two. For the first time, the other ones just felt, I don't know, easy. This one has a lot more character to me. They're all kind of blobby and blocky, but still very simple. And then here's where I started to dive into something a little bit more abstract. And the reason that it's cut off right there is because it's being eaten by the next set of letters. But basically, this one is super chunky, kind of polygonal and connected, where the top of the T, the top of the I, and the top of the second C are all connected. They kind of all just disconnect, and they have their separate pieces down here. The H, the first C are behind all that. This one I didn't think this one would be very readable, but that's fine. I don't really mind that. But basically I lost the footage of me drawing this stuff right here. It took me probably just a couple of hours. But yeah, it was a bummer that I lost it, but I figured I would still go over it instead of just skipping over that. Let's move on to the rest of this project. Alright, so here we go with the rest of this project back when I was able to record it or stream it. For some reason, the first couple hours got cut, but we're back. So this is the next set right after that abstract set that I was showing. And I'm still sticking to basic letter structure, but this time I went with the kind of lowercase design, and I had some interaction between the sets of letters. And then this is design 6 out of 21, so there's going to be 21 sets of letters in this. This next set was kind of inspired by, I guess, like Metallica a little bit, how their logo goes. But all these first designs, probably the first 8 or 10 of them, were all kind of like done on the spot. I didn't prep them or anything. They're very easy though, so I kind of just let my mind wander and I freestyled them. And then at some point, I think it might have been even after this set here that I'm doing right now, I might have switched to designs that I had previously drawn in my notebooks and things. I had this kind of thought that I would be able to freestyle all these designs, but I would like constantly be running into like, okay, what next, while I'm trying to record or stream, and I didn't think that that was as effective for making stuff. So I ended up pulling from designs that I had made previously at some point, instead of just doing the whole thing freestyle, because I usually do these mandalas almost completely freestyle with no planning beforehand. But this one was a bit different. I was trying to do way too much. And then, as you can see, some of these designs are like drastically different from all the rest. But this one's pretty simple. It's just triangles and circles. That's it. If I were to like pull any of these designs out on their own and do them as a unique piece, I would definitely add more things to them. But for the sake of this project, they're all pretty easy, pretty simple. Even as simple as it was, this project still took me well over 40 hours probably in total, like, spent on it. Just recording it was about 30 hours or so. If I were to spend all that on one piece, it would look really, really amazing. But I basically spent an hour and a half to 2 hours on each individual set of letters in total. But I probably will pull my favorite designs from this and redo them with different elements or different colors or whatever. This one, I had kind of figured I hadn't done any very skinny letters yet. And since they're so skinny, I decided to give these letter blocks way more depth, like they were coming off of the page a lot further, so that you could see what they were a little bit easier. Kind of just looked like somebody took some planks of wood and just nailed them together. This was the first one that I had actually done beforehand. After that skinny one, I had completely run out of creative juice, I guess. So I referred to my notebooks. I have several little notebooks with drafts, little drawings and sketches and things to kind of keep for later. You know, I draw something, I let it marinate in my head for a while, and then once I can see it becoming something better, I'll act on it. And a lot of these designs I'm throwing in here, I hadn't made yet into something full because I only had the outline, and in my head I didn't have an idea for the rest of it, so I didn't want to start on a final design until I kind of roughed it out some more. But doing this project kind of forced me to rough out a whole bunch of ideas at once, and sometimes you just need practice, so not everything has to be the most spectacular or unique thing, especially each individual element. Like, I think that the whole of this project is more unique than any individual part of it, and that's kind of what I was going for. Sometimes I try to figure out, what am I going to do for this next piece, and the writer's block comes in where you're like, oh, I have no original ideas. There are no good ideas that I haven't done, or I can't think of anything new, or whatever, you know, whatever it is. So instead of sitting with that, I was just like, I'll just make a bunch of stuff. It's always better to just make stuff. And then you can combine components of stuff that you know you can make and things that you've already made into a new thing that would never have been, I guess, as good without the individual components. Like, you know, like when you look at dot mandala work, like those clay stones that they do the dot art on, it's all very simple to put dots on there and whatever, but the whole of the picture is so intricate and detailed because of how many times you were able to, you know, create patterns with the dots or whatever it is. You're able to spend the time and the energy to really make something that is not just so basic. Anyway, I didn't have much to say about the last two letter sets. They felt kind of just whatever to me. They were in my notebook. I didn't really care for them too much, but I got them down. And I figured I would make them better with the color later, and it would be less boring when I color them in. This one was different. I started with just the T design. Like, I had drawn on a separate occasion the letter T, and for some reason it just looked really nice to have kind of this swoopy, like, top to bottom thing on the side of this T. But I was just writing something down for work or whatever, so I just had the T in mind, and then I kind of freestyled the rest of the letters to fit around what the T was doing. And I think that's a fun challenge too, like, just pick one letter that maybe you've, like, found inspirational somewhere and remember that, and then kind of work on applying that technique to other letters and make a cohesive piece. Even though it, like, feels really simple, it's still so different from everything else. Nothing has to be completely unique for it to be, like, still pretty good. As you can see, it's good to take breaks and have tons of distractions while you're working. Really keeps the flow going. But honestly, for this design, I was putting it off and trying to procrastinate it because I knew it was gonna have a lot of detail. So even while I was sitting in my seat about to draw it, I was like, nah, I don't want to do this. I'm just gonna get up, stretch, pet my cat, whatever. I'm not gonna do this yet. We'll put it off. Because sometimes as an artist, you know something's gonna be kind of a slog, kind of a tedious process. A lot of detail. So it's like, alright, I gotta mentally prepare myself to get through this. And this design was one of them. This was another one from my little notebook that's a little bit different on here than it was in the draft. But I wanted something that looked kind of fancy, but kind of hollow. Kind of like a stained glass framework at the same time. It's hard to put into words, really. I think this design was actually so tedious that I had to come back and finish it on a separate day this particular set of letters. I was just like, alright, that's enough. I'll do the rest of that tomorrow or whatever. Some of these bits kind of look like mushrooms with devil horns to me. Yes, let me draw this line 20 times before I decide that I'm okay with it. Yeah, this one in particular, I probably repainted every single line in this set of letters at least once. It's weird to be so unhappy with a design the whole time you're making it, but then knowing that at the end it'll still be good, and still like forcing yourself to get through it because it's like, ugh, you know, it's like at the beginning you're just like, this sucks, it's never gonna look good, but at the end you're like, okay, I really got something here. And I feel that a lot more with these like more intricate ones than the simple ones, because the simple ones I feel like it's a lot easier to hide how not great they are, if they are, you know, if they aren't that great, I guess. And then I had to be careful about how deep I wanted each of these letters to be. If I made it come out too far, then I would have to be really careful about the shape of these shadows and stuff, and that's not what I wanted. So I figured it would be easier to kind of just like thicken up one side, and that'll give it a really good illusion of depth compared to trying to give it the same size blocking as the previous letters. The first layer always looks super bad. Yeah, this set I had to do a couple of rough drafts for. But this one, I went back to chunky. Away from detailed, back to chunky. Chunky's just so easy compared to trying to think of, you know, detailed shapes. Like, I'll just make it a square, put more squares on it. Easy. And then I took some kind of classic graffiti elements like chips and holes and added them to this. I was hoping that this one would be somewhat more old school. You can see the letters through the holes of the other letters. And then by this point, I had kind of abandoned having the letters interact with each other. But they do, and what I mean by that is like between different letter sets. like that one C was eating that one T of that other design, but I kind of gave up on that. Instead, I was just kind of trying to fit them in, and then I would erase the edges that overlapped, so that way it looked like they were kind of still on top of each other. You can see a challenge with this one in some places was making sure that the letters felt like they were still next to each other, and making sure that the shadows were at the right depth for the blocks. It was a nice little perspective game. I used to do a lot of architectural drawings, and I like drawing in perspective, so making all these angles and straight lines always feels pretty good. It is way more satisfying seeing it sped up like this than it was to do it all slowly and stuff in the moment. I much rather it go at this speed the whole time, if only. This one, I really felt like I was like scraping the bottom of the barrel. I was like, oh, we'll just do it, but like if we busted it up into a bunch of pieces. And I was like, oh, that's gonna be really tedious. And I was like, well, that's what we're doing. So this one's not the most inspired design or anything, but I threw it in and I thought it would look good, and I still think it does look good. But man, when I told myself I was doing it, I was like, really? I gotta draw how many little rectangles? So I made sure to stare at the TV a lot and take a bunch of breaks while doing the super tedious parts. And when it gets real tedious and your brain is just a little bit over it, every single extra line that you try to draw is like, can I even do it? Am I gonna make it through? I don't know why it has to feel so torturous when it's so easy. And then with these, I was like, there's no way I'm putting a fat shadow on them. They're gonna get a nice, narrow, skinny shadow, barely popping off the page. Because otherwise, all them shadows would probably just meld together at some point, and it would look like zebra stripes instead of individual planks coming off. You can always tell how concentrated I am by how messed up my hair is. And I'm in max tedium mode, where I've got hair sticking out the sides, the top sticking down. Look at that. Yeah, it's pretty bad. That's how you know I'm working hard. After that, I was much happier to get back to a more classic design without so many repetitive line works and movements. But this one I actually liked because I was able to fill that little gap with the big C's, and I always like it when I can make the THI lowercase and the two C's uppercase. That's just how my nickname is written, so I prefer to make them that way, but sometimes they do require the full capitalization for the design. Yep, that one was nice and easy, nice and quick. This next one I really like. I don't know why, but it reminds me of Dracula, but I can't tell why. It doesn't really make sense that it reminds me of that, but it does. It just reminds me of vampires. Maybe it's because that T kind of looks like a fang a little bit. I don't know. There are some designs where the two C's, I try to make them look similar, and sometimes I make them look different. Like in the last one, they were completely different, but this one, the one on the right, is just a little bit more, I guess, fit to the other C in a way that it's the same, but it's kind of an extension. It's bigger, and it kind of helps the shape of the entire set of 5 kind of round out, I guess. But it's interesting trying to choose when to make the two of the same letter actually similar and when to make them different from each other. Because I've actually heard most people would not prefer to have a graffiti writer name with 2 of the same letter right next to each other, but I think it's actually a good challenge. I don't really have much to say about this one. It's kind of just wavy. It reminds me of the 70s. Not that I would know much about the 70s. You know, kind of like psychedelic poster, like band poster font, I guess. I don't know. The last couple here, I was just happy to be getting towards the end. And the inspiration for where they came from was starting to dwindle. They were still coming out of my notebook, like all of the previous ones from when I first mentioned it have been from that little set of notebooks. And this one was no different, but this one was actually supposed to be a tag, and it was supposed to be more of like a calligraphy design. I was like, nah, I think I can actually include this one and then just give it very large shadow blocks, just like that previous skinny design. So that's what I did. And you can't even see the whole thing, which is kind of why I felt okay using a design that was maybe not meant for this context, because I feel like I can incorporate it in another way, another style that would be better on its own. But here it still looks nice, even it's just not being brought to its full potential here. So this will be one of the ones that I probably pull out and make another version of later, because you don't get to see the whole T, you don't get to see the whole H. But the implication is there, so there's that. It's implied that the whole letter is there. And then, honestly, I just had fun making all these dark areas for this one. There hadn't been too much contrast yet on the outside. Now, for these this corner, I really struggled. I had a design in mind that was more geometric, triangle based, because I was like, oh, we're in the corner, it's kind of a triangle shape, but I abandoned that and went for something else, where once again you wouldn't be able to see all the letters, but the design is so simple that you can kind of infer, I guess. I don't know, kind of looks like little fireballs up there a little bit. But this is the time when I was just excited to be done with the outlines and be moving on to the coloring soon. I was very happy at the end of this session right here. And whenever I do end up getting to the part where I color in everything, I always feel like, oh, this is the good part. Like, I can't wait. So I was just very eager. And then obviously for the coloring, in the little letters in the very middle, it would be kind of a waste to put a bunch of detail in there. So I gave them a very simple color gradient of warm colors, and then a basic kind of highlight and shadow. That's it. Nothing crazy. Second set of letters, kind of the same. Not really. It's a two-tone thing, like little bubbles. Just blue and purple. Nothing crazy. And then I gave the bubbles a highlight and a shadow, so that you could kind of see what's what. You know what I should have done is I should have made these highlights and shadows a little bit better, but no one really, it's so far away. It looks fine. I need to judge myself less harshly for this. Now, I got stumped by what to do here for a while. But I had done warm, I had done blue and purple. I was like, the only thing that's really left are greens and like pinks and stuff. So I did pink, and I don't even know how to really describe the color fill for this or where the inspiration came from. But imagine if a bunch of Airheads Extremes candy ropes were just laying on top of each other. And then I don't know how else to describe this. It's poppy, it's vibrant, it's abstract, it's geometric, and then I gave the letters some shadow. I tried to give pretty much every set of letters a little bit of shade and highlight. at least around the edges. I try to, depending. You know, I want them all to feel at least a little bit poppy, a little bit, you know, expressive, less flat. I got stumped on this one. So I just did a basic little outline design, throwing some dots and lines around the edges of the letters. It looks nice, a little two-tone blue, whatever. Pretty easy stuff. A little shadow. The coloring part always felt like less of a mystery to me. I always kind of felt like I would just know what colors need to go where. I had almost legitimately no idea what to do for this super abstract, chunky, blocky design. So I ended up just putting a color gradient on it with a textured brush. That's what I do in a moment of crisis. Just use a textured brush, color gradient. See how that works. And I was like, okay, well, if I'm doing that, maybe I can make it two-tone where they complement each other, the two colors, but they are kind of different. So I was like, okay, pink and orange, easy. And I just moved on. I didn't think too much. If I ever got stuck, I just tried to make a choice and move on. I didn't feel like wasting my time trying to be super creative on the colors when the outlines and the shape were, in my opinion, more tricky to figure out and more worth like spending time to figure out. Whereas the coloring, I can color the whole piece anything I want, but then I can also take that and throw it through the Photoshop color hue saturation changer and then just make it whatever colors I want at any time. So I was never too worried about that part. Back to what I was doing though. This is kind of like the Metallica inspired one, so I tried to make it look like metal. I didn't do the best job, but I think it kind of looks like a little bit like stainless steel from far away. Maybe anodized aluminum, I don't know. Just doing my best out here. This goopy one kind of reminded me of Ghostbusters, so I made it slime green and put little oozy little bits to make it look like it was flowing on itself. Super easy and simple. Not much thought went into this one. This one, I wanted a color gradient, but I do like the idea of making color gradients that have an off end to it. Like the next color would have been red after orange, but I instead skipped to purple. And that color gradient, the color set of purple, orange, lighter orange, and yellow is one of my favorites. So I wanted to throw that in somewhere. Now, I can't tell you what this actually looks like, but I was trying at first to make it look like wood texture, which is crazy because it's super far away and small. You're not going to be able to tell anyway. So after I put all the wood texture on, I was like, well, I can't even really tell that that's wood. I'm just going to make it brighter and tell everybody it's gold. So it's gold, actually. Those letters are just gold. I was really stumped for this next one though. The only thing I could think of was, hey, I haven't used red in a while. And that was pretty much it. Put red there. And I was like, okay, how about make a textured brush? When in doubt, make a textured brush or find one. And then I was like, red is good. I'll just make a darker red. And I'll put these wavy stripes of darker red. I wish I could say there was more thought behind some of my actions in these projects, but a lot of my mandala work especially is all kind of in the moment. What am I feeling I want to draw? And then I keep adding until I feel it's done. Sometimes that happens sooner, sometimes that happens later. And then by this time, I had realized I hadn't done any beveled edges yet. And I like beveled edges, so I thought this one would be a perfect opportunity to get that going. And I was like, if I'm making beveled edges, why not make it look like diamond a little bit? Like a nice blue diamond. So I put some nice heavy cuts on the edges here. And then I think I gave it some reflections to make it look like light was bouncing off. Like a shiny diamond. Except not like a shiny diamond, because light doesn't normally bounce off of a diamond. It goes through and then gets, you know, we all know how that works. I don't have to explain that. This is an art channel, not a science channel. And I'm sure that some of these lines look a little odd, but if I were to cut diamond into my letters, this is how I would cut it. So if you would cut it different, draw it, let me know. I don't care. But this is how I would do it. And then since they're so shiny, I actually did find a light effect brush that let me put a little like flare on some of the spots. And then for here, once again, I ran out of ideas, so I put a gradient on it. And I was like, I haven't seen yellow in a while. I'll put yellow there. So yellow to orange gradient. And then I had a memory of the old soda cups with the kind of, they were like white and they had the swooshes and the scribbles and whatnot, but you get them at like the roller rink and stuff. So I was like, okay, I think I can make that vibe happen. So I don't know what to call that, but there it is. And then this was actually very easy to figure out. Since this design was so intricate and detailed, I was like, all right, this is just going to be silver. Like, you know, like jewelry, silver. And then I don't know why I was struggling so hard. I tried to use techniques to make this process go faster of me just coloring in silver, but it ended up taking a whole bunch of time. And then I threw some little red flares on each like point in that one, so that way it kind of felt like jewelry. I don't know, I just knew it looked nice. Can't always explain everything I do. I just think it looks good. And then pretty much every decision I make color wise comes from, firstly, have I seen that color in a while, and then secondly, do these other colors go with that first color that I hadn't seen in a while. And that's pretty much it. I guess if I'm talking about like the placement of these little bits, what I did was I used the holes in the letters to identify the shape, and then whatever that like shape of the hole was, I would put in color more inside towards the letter. So like those two square holes, I made them again, but I put them closer to the inside of the letter, and then I kind of filled the space with the blue. You know, I had a hard time picking what to do with this. I tried to think of textures to put in there, but I was like, no one's gonna see that. It's too small. And I thought of different elements to add, and I was like, no, it's too small. I didn't want to do another gradient, so I did my first rainbow in this. I was like, I'll just do it so that each letter's got a rainbow of planks, and I figured I would just try it out and see how it looked, and I thought it looked pretty good, so I kept it. And I was especially frustrated with the whole like, what color haven't I used in a second? You know, what color is next? Screw it, just put all of them. Next, I was just like, yo, I haven't seen orange in a while. So I couldn't come up with a good design, so I put these little spots on there that kind of look like reflection spots, but I made them off. I made them orange instead of bright, like white or brighter orange. So they kind of look more like liver spots or freckles or something. And then I don't even know what gave me this idea, but I shaded the bottom part a little darker, and then I just added, I was looking for elements to add, but I couldn't think of anything, so I just added a star. And I just added stars a few times. And I can't explain what this is or why I thought it looked good or why I think it looks good, but you know, boom, stars there now. Yeah, you can't even barely see them, but there they are. I was really excited for this next one. I didn't know what I was gonna put in there, but I was excited. So I just put purple in there. And at this point, I had kind of been thinking, I hadn't done any hollow letters yet, where it felt like you could sink in to the letter itself. And I like that idea, so I put a textured background on the face using my favorite colors, just a nice little kind of sandy, like dusty, multicolored texture. And then I put the same type of blocking on the inside of the letter, so that it looks like the outlines are very, very thin and kind of like a shell, and then you could go inside almost, and maybe even like, I don't know, but I like the effect of it. And this was also the first time I put some kind of shading on the blocks themselves, like on the sides. And part of me throughout this whole project wanted to do something like that for all of the shadows. But I was like, no, I'm going to lose a lot of contrast and readability that way. And then this piece is going to be too busy. I don't know if anyone would agree with that. But I thought that would have been probably like the step too far into like too much effort, you know what I mean? But if I had to pick a design out of all 21 of these where I had the most mistakes, it would probably be this one, because I have to think about perspective and color gradients and thickness and all this other stuff. And I probably missed a couple things, but I don't know if anyone else will notice except for me, so I won't point them out. Yeah, that one looks really nice. And I was really mostly using those white elements to separate the edges on the inside, you know what I mean? It's a good way to kind of draw outlines without drawing outlines. But after that one, I was like, oh man, I don't know what to do. So another color gradient. And then after I put the color gradient in, I was like, I don't even know what I could possibly put in here to make it better. So I did another color gradient, but this time I did kind of like a reverse gradient within, where I took the darker blues from the bottom and put dots of that on top, and then I went through to the greens that I was using on top. I put dots on the bottom, so I was like, whatever, double color gradient, polka dots, it's good, it's fine. And then by this time I had really kind of run out of conventional ideas, I guess, or ideas in general. But I was able to come up with, for this skinny one, I was like, I can't really do too much here, but I do like the idea of a textured brush. So I found one, and it reminded me of like stippling designs. And I don't know how I got to this point, but I was thinking, I kind of want this to look like the red and black plaid flannels that people wear. I don't know why I thought that, but I was like, oh, that actually sounds pretty good. And this would probably be one of the less vibrant, least bright designs out of all the color designs. And then the last one, I was like, whatever, they look like fire. Make it look like fire a little bit, you know, orange, yellow, and then we're good. But that's pretty much where I ended up. That's pretty much it for the coloring. And then I threw a nice pale yellow in the back. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. Please come through to my website at www.thic216.com. All my favorite designs are there. Come through to my Instagram, where I have all of my published works, only bangers on my Instagram. My Redbubble page features all of my best designs on some wonderful merch. All kinds of clothing, mouse pads, hats, anything you can think of. Shower curtains, stickers, laptop cases, phone cases. Here I am displaying a nice hoodie, classic design, a pillow. Who could do without a pillow? Nobody. Everyone needs a pillow. Very soft. We've also got prints
any kind of print you could want: posters, metal prints, framed prints. We've got zipper bags, zipper pouches. Put every pencil, every pen you've ever had in there. Mouse pad, desk pad, game mats. Anything you could think of. I've even got a bath mat and a shower curtain. Also come through to my TikTok, small videos there. And then my YouTube for all my full-length videos. And Fiverr if you want me to make art for you. Thanks again for making it to the end of the video. Here's a nice slow zoom in shot of the whole thing. You get to really take in how big this thing is. And when I started this project, you know, I thought I was being too ambitious with how many I was gonna have to put in, but after completing it, it feels really great to have something this massive be completed. And I really like how I can really sink into it. Also, by the way, this is like hour number 10 of me trying to edit and upload this stupid video. I don't know what was going on, but Adobe Premiere was giving me some problems. But either way, the video is finally out, and I can finally show off what I made. Hope you guys like all the pretty colors and things. I always try to put as much color in as I can. Can't wait to see this. Honestly, I'm probably gonna buy this one as a tapestry off of my website and put it on a wall somewhere. Because this one I feel like I gotta see in real life, not just on my screen. Anyway, thanks again for making it all the way to the end. Have a great one. Bye-bye.